Hello, I'm Edward Newsom, and this is Chatterbox Cinema, and this is my co-host.
Billy, back here again. And this week we reviewed The Wild Robot. Now, going in, when I saw this, it got my attention because it's DreamWorks, right? DreamWorks,
DreamWorks, yeah.
Pixar. DreamWorks is consistent, in my opinion. They don't have as many lows.
I will say they always have like their trilogies always have one bad movie in them.
That's fair. But like for when they do their first
Continue.
film, when they do like their first film, if it's a series or not, it seems like that first one always starts off really well.
I will say this movie was just beautiful in general. The animation style was fantastic.
The animation's gorgeous, and what I liked about the beginning of it, they kept the opening very simple. You
Yeah.
see there's a robot there, and you see the robot try to climb up the cliff, and Roz walks like start imitates the crab and gets to the top of the cliff, and then it goes wild robot. We see this gorgeous fall forest, and that's the start of the movie. I like that they kept the opening so simple.
And it's just it's setting up. Like this thing that doesn't look like it belongs here. Trying to adapt.
Trying to adapt. And I think one of the first notes I had after we get to the opening is it was so funny because Roz is like, "Do you need assistance?" and then charges at this beaver and destroys its dam. And then it activates learning mode. So one thing I will take in, I will say this. One to me, I took this as a message. Maybe it was how I viewed the film. When you enter a new environment, sometimes you need to stop for a minute before you speak and just take in the environment. What are the people talking about? What are they acting like? Before I jump in and just throw myself in there, maybe I need to kick back and learn something from them first before engaging with them. And that's something that I like took out of that kind of opening was that Roz needed to take in the new environment first before learning the appropriate way to interact with the other animals.
Yeah, it is always interesting to see like the fish out of water, but it like I will say like the I'm not sure how you feel about this, but the comedic timing on all those scenes of like the fish out of water, I think they do a lot better than most movies. It's a lot less forced and it seems very natural for the character.
I agree with that. There's a lot of films where, like you said, fish out of water, and it's like they're forcing things to try to move along the story rather than thinking about how would this character really behave in this situation. And so I do think they handled Roz's fish out of water experience really well.
Yeah, and then every moment doesn't feel like every moment feels very intentional. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're just going to show you a sequence of events of, oh, look, they don't understand things, and that's just the butt of the joke through the entire movie. They took it very seriously. Like, okay, this is learning. This is how you can imagine someone trying to figure it out who's never been in the wilderness.
What I'm glad you said that because what I liked about this film, I'm gonna pull in another movie here, Thor: Love and Thunder. Have you seen that one?
Yep.
Okay, this isn't Thor: Love and Thunder. What I mean by that is in that movie there are serious moments, but instead of letting you sitting with the heavy or the deeper messages, they force comedy to run the moment to let you take in the serious scenes. In this movie, when they do have something serious, they let you sit with it for a second and actually think about it and process. I like that a lot about this film.
I will say Chris Sanders, who's the writer and director, is very good at that. He written and directed Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. So like this is his wheelhouse. I think he does this very well in all of his movies. I think Lilo and Stitch is obviously the original is obviously iconic for a very good reason, and it kind of has that similar pacing. I want to say.
Yeah, and when it comes to pacing, when you look at the film, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not 2.5 hours. What was it, like an hour 40, roughly? Hour 30
Something like that.
something?
Yeah, yeah.
And it feels like you said, every scene had intention. There was purpose for every scene. There wasn't wasted scenes or breather scenes where it's like we're just throwing this in there to fill the runtime. It actually felt like every scene was intentionally set up to do something, to go into the bigger story.
It's nice when a writer can understand the concept of Chekhov's gun. Is like the first thing they teach you in like storytelling. But so many films do not pass the Chekhov's gun.
Can you explain it?
So Chekhov's gun is the concept if you had like a loaded gun on the fireplace, I think it is, and that gun doesn't go off and is never mentioned in the story, it shouldn't have been mentioned in the first place. The gun has to go off if you're going to mention the fact that there's a gun laying there.
So, like, yeah, the rule that I've heard is if you see a gun or weapon in Act 1, it'll be there for Act 3.
Yeah, like you have to, and that's for literally everything in a story, because stories are not like your day to day life, right? Where there's a lot of things that happen that probably won't come up later. A story is contained to, like, if you're writing a story over several years, you got to contain all the important bits. So if it's not going to come up again, then there's no purpose for it in the story.
So make everything that you're putting in early come to fruition later. Let it
Yeah, let
carry
it
over.
have cause and effect, and, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, and that really helps me out too with writing ideas. But I think what you said, a lot of these films don't do it that
That
way
well
with their
anymore.
pacing. And not only that, like you said, the animation style, this is one of those films, hey, let us show you what animation could be, what it can be.
Well, another little fact that I really enjoyed, throughout the movie, the robot starts with completely CG, but throughout it starts gaining like hand brush strokes as it becomes more in its environment.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's why you see it get more textured. It becomes more hand drawn.
Okay, that makes more sense. So, what did I write here? Um, Oh, so the animals refer to Razum as the monster, right? That's natural.
Yeah.
We don't understand something. Native Americans, they're the monster. Robot, it's the monster. So it's so easy for them just to say monster. Remember back in the day that they thought that the boats just fell off the world because they were getting attacked by monsters. They would hit so far
Yeah.
that they just wrote off, oh, monsters are here, not realizing it just kept going. So it's kind of the same thing here. They just refer to Roz as the monster.
Well, I mean, from their point of view, it makes sense. I mean, like, and because Roz looks very, very out of place.
Right, and
And it's
Roz
very
is
intentional,
huge.
obviously.
Roz is huge. I mean, just a giant
Can you
robot.
imagine Roz standing next to a human being? Like, how that would look?
Oh yeah, that would be crazy.
Like,
Like he would be like, what is
I
that?
think what isn't Roz like 7 feet tall or something canonically?
I don't know. In the film, she looks much taller than that because Roz is way taller than even the bear.
Yeah. So I don't know how big a bear is. I've never seen one up close.
I've only seen them at the zoo, and
They're
the ones
pretty
I've
big animals.
seen are probably 3 to 4 feet. I would say, roughly, maybe tall. Um,
Well, I
but
mean, I've
any,
seen videos of them like standing against
oh yeah, yeah,
trees, and they look really
standing they
big.
would be taller, but I mean just like on four legs even.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, so Rod is like you said, looks out of place, feels out of place, and then there is there's an incident where the raccoons start stealing Rosm's parts.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a funny little thing. But then Roz finds an egg and a fox steals the egg. So this fox and Roz have this back and forth over the egg.
And I do love Pedro Pascal's voice acting in this. I thought it
Yes.
might take me out because I've watched a lot of Pedro Pascal that his voice would be like, but I will say he actually did a very, very good job.
Yeah, like for me, I wrote down the names of some of the characters here. Let's see. Fink.
Yeah.
Fink is probably my favorite character in this film. Easily.
I would actually have to agree with you on that one. I really did enjoy him.
Because I like the fact that Fink at first he wants all this food, he wants to do what's best for him, but then you realize he's also looking for his family and for somewhere to belong. So he also feels like an outcast. There's something to be said about the outcast, right?
I
Roz is the
also
outsider, Bright Bill.
I have some of the quotes saved, and
Okay.
I would say I think he has the most devastating quote in the entire film.
What was it?
I'll bring it up later because let me get there because it's towards the end. So
Okay, okay. So they're fighting over this egg, and the egg hatches, and out comes a baby bird. Now we can see this bird doesn't look like the typical gosling.
yeah,
So once again, Fink, Bright Bill, and Roz, all three are outcast in this environment. So they connect in that way. So they're kind of creating their own family. And how I related to it was my family lives a little bit further away. So I don't get to see them as much, but I have kind of a local family. I have like a local grandma. I have
yeah,
like almost like a father figure. So there's something to be said you can't control the family you're born into, but you can pick your friends, and sometimes those friends become your family. So I think
I
I
would say
related in that way.
I would say we all probably consider our friendships just as valuable as our blood relations.
If not more, in some cases, they become those. Depending on your situation. Like I'm close. My grandma and dad and I all get along, but we don't because of our schedules. We
Yeah.
don't see each other as much, and they're further away. So here in town, I have friends that I consider more like brothers and sisters to me. So, in that way, they are all looking for their purpose, right? Roz literally is programmed to fulfill tasks, so she cannot function without having a task to fulfill. But then unique things start happening as we go throughout the film.
Yeah, and I will say that I think this would be I think could you imagine watching this movie at the perspective of as a new mother? Like I feel like there's a lot that a new mom can connect with this movie with just like I think who was it? I think I talked to my sister in law about it, and it was very emotional for her because she's currently pregnant. Because it's a lot of motherhood is just trying to figure everything out by feeling like you're not doing it the right way and trying to adapt to that.
Right, and I think being a parent would be hard. First of all, I
Mm.
was telling you before we went on the air, my best friend, they just had their second. Congratulations to them! They just had their second daughter born today, healthy and everything. So literally, not even an hour and a half ago, baby was born. Um, but being a parent, I think, is scary. See, as a kid, you think people in their 30s 20s and
Yeah.
30s have all their stuff together. Ha ha, yeah, right. Now we know better. I'm in my 30s now and I just feel like I've finally got like a better understanding of what I actually need to do. Right? You have this whole future planned, but then when it goes different than what you expect, you have to learn that sometimes it works out for the best and you have to accept that path. So being a parent, you think it's going to go this way, it actually goes this way, but it makes you and your kid better from it. And if you have another kid in the future, you have that experience that has been built in, and natural instincts will kick in. You're going to be protective. So Roz is told by Fink, "Oh, Gosling's imprint on the first thing they see. So congratulations, you're the mother." So there's something to be said. Let's just say hypothetically you had a strained relationship with a parent. Sometimes another adult figure will actually become a mother or father figure to
I think
you.
even if you don't have a complete strained relationship, but sometimes you as like I've grown up, you find teachers and things that you have more relation to, and still become like almost co-parent figures. And I also like in my personal life, my grandparents were like a pretty big, just not just grandparents, but parental figure overall because my parents worked very long hours.
So your grandparents had a big influence
Yeah, bad
on.
influence on raising, and it was there's a really true saying about it takes a village. A lot of people, especially nowadays when both parents have to work, there's very rarely time where kids can spend 24/7 with the parent, or the one of your parents are always home, or when you have
You're
two
right.
parents in the workforce.
My high school, I lived with my great grandparents because my dad worked a lot, and they wanted me to stay in the small town because where the bigger town had a higher dropout rate and more
Yeah,
issues. So I stayed with my great grandparents, and I found what it did. It helped me learn how to become more independent because they weren't always watching everything I was doing. They weren't worried about me. They knew I was going to get in trouble. So I started doing a lot
uh-oh, Billy.
of it. So I became myself because I were like, hey, the first day I moved in, like, do your chores or do your homework, stay out of trouble. And I know we won't have any issues. And we never had that talk again. The only thing my great grandma every night would tell me to set my alarm.
Yeah,
And there was one night, and part of me was like, oh, she keeps telling me that, but I'll be fine for school. There was one night I didn't set my alarm and I barely made it to school in time. So the one time my great grandma didn't tell me, it became part of the daily routine. So yeah, it does take a village. Like you said, teachers become parent figures in the absence when the parents are working a lot. It's not the parents' fault. It's what they have to do to provide. And as a kid, you don't always understand that until you get older. So being able to watch this movie, say as a kid,
yeah,
as an adult,
it's gonna be a completely different experience.
even a parent down the road, if you want to be a parent,
I will
yeah,
say one thing that did kind of connect. Like I said, I'm not as yet a parent. I hope to be one day. But what speaking of my grandparents, this is kind of how I related through Raz throughout the movie. is once they got older and I got older, I became the caretaker. Once my grandfather had dementia, I took care of him towards to the end of his life, and so much of that is terrifying and just trying to figure. Like you see Raz try to like figure, okay, so how do we take care of this thing? How do we make it lit? You know, and you have a man who can't remember his own name. You're trying to figure out how do I get this like from day to day, and it's a very scary experience. And I think as much as you can, you see Raz kind of struggle with that, especially in the beginning of motherhood.
Right, because she even says something along the lines like, "I'm not capable of taking care of being a mother. I can't do
Yeah.
it. Like, I'm not programmed for that." And then I think Fink questions her, like, what like there's almost like a, can you become more than what you're programmed to do as a
Hmm.
person in life? Or can you go down a different path, or can things work out differently for you just because you feel like they have to go a certain way, or you're programmed to be a certain way? Can you overcome that? So let me ask you this. With your grandparents, with becoming the caretaker, what do you think was like the most positive thing that came out of that experience for you?
Uh, Lots of independence. Like at that point, you have to eventually learn in life that there's things bigger than yourselves. I mean, as a kid, you're allowed to be selfish and it's encouraged, so you can kind of find yourself. But once you get to your teens to 20s, is that's around the time where you have to learn to become selfless. That there's bigger things than me, and like I don't want to make it out that I lost or anything by taking care of my grandfather, but around that time I learned that you either I'm able to go hang out with friends or I have to be home with him. I mean, like you can't have your cake and eat too. So you have to learn that, like, no, you have to be okay with losing out for something bigger than yourself.
Right, because with your grandparents taking care of you and helping you and stuff, you feel like, hey, this is just something I have to do, right? And it's bigger than me.
It's not even just something you have to do. It's I love this person. I'm choosing to be here because I will give on to you what you gave on to me.
Right. I will share one story. My great grandmother had dementia, and she fell, broke a hip. She was going to have hip replacement surgery. I'll never forget this, and I've never shared this story because it's a tough one. But they were giving her this blue pill, and her tongue was turning blue. She said, "They're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me." And I've said, "Grandma, they're just trying to help you. You're going to be fine." And she didn't remember me, but she trusted what I was saying. So she
They
took
do,
the
yeah.
pill. She went to sleep. Surgery turned out fine. But it's hard to watch somebody you care about go through dementia, to go through
And
memory
it's
loss.
I would say like they always think like what they say they think is real, so you can't argue with it. Like what I mean. Like if I go, Grandpa, you need to do this. He's like, no, you're lying to me. I'm like, well, I guess that's his reality for right now. I got to figure my way around it.
That's exactly what I did. I learned if you called them out when they were wrong, it made them more angry. So
Made them agitated.
I would play along with it because I didn't want to upset my grandma. So
Towards the end of his life, the whole family pretended he had a cat he never had. We had to go get cat food for a cat that he imagined was coming in his window at night because we just didn't want to. We're like, yeah, Grandpa, you have a cat, such a pretty cat.
right, I saw him earlier. He's out eating.
Don't worry about him, he's good.
He's good. We fed him. Okay. Like you have to, because to me, it's not worth putting them under stress.
Yeah,
Um, so throughout, oh, by the way, so we get back to, I love Fink's introduction, predator and local goose expert. Like that was just hilarious. And then, Rosam, it says eat, swim, fly by fall. That's the goal. That is now her new mission, is eat, swim, fly by fall. So Bright Bill, small wings, small stature, run of the litter, has to be able to fly for migration period. And she builds a shelter for the gosling, and they name it Bright Bill because it's like, come on, no, you can't have numbers in its name. And she's like, well, I have numbers in my name. So it was really neat because Fink tries to act like he doesn't care, but deep down he cares more than anybody else.
and he cares a lot. Like I mean, I think with him is it's almost a fear of connecting throughout the movie. Like he wants to be there, but he doesn't want anyone to know that he wants to be there.
I'm guessing he's afraid if he connects to someone, he's just going to lose them.
Yeah, and you can kind of and you see that by the quote I have later on. That's exactly what he's afraid of.
Yeah, so I like that. You have an animated film with distinct characters who have different personalities, different fears, different goals to accomplish. And at the beginning of the film is sort of these characters are kind of selfish, and Roz is judged for her appearance at the beginning. Oh, she's this monster. There's nothing she can do to help us. She's just here to destroy, destroy, destroy. And I like the way that we have character arc and character growth for each character throughout the story. And to me, that's why I enjoyed this one. What I liked, they said they're going to tell Bright Bill a story, and Fink is trying to teach Rosam how to story tell, and she just goes like dark, morbid, and Fink has like no, you can't do that, and teaching her how to improvise. So I really
Yeah,
liked that interaction between those two, and then Bright Bill behaving like a robot, beep beep boop boop. I mean, just like talking like Roz.
I would say the one of the scenes I did like and I love the animation for is the winter storm scene with Ross collecting like the animals and stuff. Like
Yes,
it just flows so perfect, and you can feel that tension almost.
I honestly
I
was
just
I was
love.
watching.
I just want to say I love the movement and all this. Like the movement of these characters are really well done, and like an animation style.
It feels that this story could have actually happened, right? With the
Yeah,
way they do the style and the season changes.
mm,
Beautiful. Like you said, winter, I wanted to turn my heat up. I was like, oh, it's getting cold. It
it's
looks
getting
cold
chilly.
out there. Yeah. And then spring comes, you're like, okay, the plants are coming to life. Like you actually can, when you watch the film, oh, it's fall, it's spring,
Yeah.
it's winter, it's summer. You actually get the seasons. And I really thought that they did a good job with the animation style on that. I like another message here we're having whenever they're training Bright Bill, they're trying to teach
Yeah.
him how to swim. That it says, Roz even says, "I prefer him to be independent, closer to home." Roz is having a hard time letting go and watching Bright Bill grow up and become independent. And there's something to be said what you said earlier about being a parent. It's knowing when to help and when to let kids try things on their own.
Not to call you out, mom and dad in the audience, but I obviously recently went off to college, and that was very hard for my parents. And my parents were actually not on the same page at the beginning of this. Like my dad was very much not completely for me moving away, while my mom was, and she kept reassuring my dad that I'd be okay. But I could get how it's very hard because like when you spend, my parents had 18 years raising somebody, and you're like, okay, big bad world, go take them is has to be terrifying.
For me, with you, the reason why we get along so well, I think, is because I thought you would thrive in college because you like not only learning, just like textbook, but you like having your views challenged. Like, oh, I've thought this because of this, but here's this new piece of information.
Oh yeah,
Now I can see this. So I thought you would thrive because being around other people that want to learn, being in the field you're going into, I thought you would be challenged in a way that would give you new skills, enhance the ones you already have, develop some new ones, and then also challenge your views on things. So I think for you, college is a good thing because you're going to meet people from different places, different
and
worldviews.
it so far has gone so well, but I do understand my father's timidness about that because you know, um, obviously you know the full story, but like my parents, I put my parents through a lot through high school, and so for my dad to be like, okay, I'm nervous about this, but I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna support you it was a big thing, and I think it's a big chapter in any parent's life.
Yeah,
And I think that's exactly what's happened with Roz, even though it's a bird, you know?
right. It's a bird. And, Bright Bill is rejected by the other geese at first. And Bright Bill gets angry because he says he'll never belong and that Rosam's not his mom. It's like, damn. Because to me, there's something to be said. Sometimes the person that is looking after you isn't necessarily your biological parent.
And that
Um,
I don't think should ever really matter.
I think it's more of, do they look at you like their kid and do they take care of you? My friend's mom, I could not call her by her real name. I had to call her Mama and then her
Yeah.
last name because she did not. she took me in as kind of like her son because I once again geographically she was closer to where I lived. So it's one of those things is your mother always the person that you're born to? And I think the answer is no. I think you can have
And I
a
think you could
parent
have
figure.
multiple throughout your life to guide you at
Yeah.
different points of your life.
Different people come into your life to help you learn, whether it be good lessons or bad lessons. There's always a purpose to it. And I think as you get older, more experienced, even it's not necessarily age because you're really mature. Well, we'll put an asterisk next to that because we get on some BS when we have caffeine. But
Am I really mature or are you really immature? Let's flip a coin.
hmm, being normal is vastly overrated according
Who
to
needs that?
someone smart that I know. But no, I really like. I don't. This part I don't like because I'm like, damn, you quit being mean to Roz. Like it makes you
Mm.
care about these characters. And Rosam discovers Rummage, and she finds out she's from Universal Dynamics, and kind of the purpose, Rummage says, "Oh, you've overridden your own programming. We need to fix that." There's a scan done, and we discover that Roz has been able to override the programming.
That reminds me of another one of these quotes. I say that I guess I really like. I forget who says it, but sometimes to survive, you have to become more than you were programmed to be.
Yes, I wrote down that same quote.
Stuck out to me. What can I say?
It really stuck out to me as well, and I think there's a lot to be said of that. I think at some point you have to, like you said, find your purpose. Sometimes it's bigger than what you are. Sometimes you need to, what do you call it? Eat some humble pie. You
Yeah,
got to,
there's something about. Well, and also I think you can take this multiple ways. If like sometimes you have to become bigger than where you came from and bigger than your past. Sometimes because you're programmed to be something doesn't mean you have to be it. And I take this like anything like if you come from drug addicts doesn't mean you have to be a drug addict. If you come from wherever, you don't have to follow the line and you don't have to follow the code that was written for you by other people when you were growing up.
exactly, because there comes a point to where you start noticing trends in your family, and it's like, here are the good things, here are the bad things. Can I break the cycle? Can I
Mhm.
break that generational cycle? And I think it might take work and it might take a lot of reflection, but I do think it is possible to overcome generational cycles.
And I also took it like on a personal level as like if you're ever given a mental health diagnosis, lots of times it's very easy to go look up statistics, and easy, and it feels like that's what you're programmed to go do. But it takes a lot of time and healing to realize that's not these are numbers and you don't have to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like the goal is to beat the statistics, not be part of them.
Yeah, you almost wonder sometimes if it's better just not to look at statistics, get the help you need, and get it figured out rather than because sometimes you can dwell on the statistic. Like, how many people go to Google when they're sick? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I either am dying or I have a cold, you
I mean,
know?
and I also gotta say, like, when you're told you're gonna like that you've been diagnosed with a mental health disorder and like you're gonna have this for the rest of your life, the first thing you want to do is go to Google. That's like it's so like how do you not like? I'm gonna be honest, you really shouldn't. You should not. I think everybody
No.
knows that, but they're like, well, but it's at the tips of your fingers, and now I mean, how do you resist?
Right. And then you have that anxiety to where, oh, I got to set up a doctor appointment. You get set up, and then you find out actually this is the way we're going to go and try
Yeah,
this.
it's a whole process, isn't
A
it?
lot of times, like you said with horror films, your mind's going to go many different ways than where it's actually going to go. Same thing in life. Sometimes
Yeah.
you think this is going to go this way, you freak out, you create the worst case scenario in your head, and you find out, oh, it's actually not bad. I think that's what Roz does here. She looks at what happens if Bright Bill gets away from home. Oh, the other geese won't accept him. They're going to bully him. They're going to make fun of him, or they're going to trick him and they're going to hurt him so he can't keep flying. I mean, all these thoughts are going through her head.
Well, and I don't know if this was an intentional metaphor, but from what I understand from my own parent experience, that's a very similar experience to a parent of a child with a disability of some kind, something in school. You know, are they going to be made fun of? Are they going to be bullied? Are they going to be able to defend themselves? Do they have like, because that's something both my parents have brought up. I mean, I have a brother that had autism and that kind of, these kind of fears are very common especially when you know your child is going to be perceived as different.
Right. So then I'll give you an example. I won't say names or anything, but I had a student who was struggled in math,
Yeah,
but had really high reading levels. I mean, like 12th grade reading in 8th grade.
yeah,
So I was working with this student, and what I was trying to, he had very supportive parents at home. So
hmm,
that helped a lot. But then we tried to turn the reading strength into math strength, be it like the word problems and stuff, and using that. So I think sometimes whenever a kid has a disability, if the parents are supportive and can figure out what resources they need, they can get higher than what they think. They can
yeah.
actually use their strengths to work on the weaknesses, and they can actually get further than what they think. The same could be
I
said
mean,
with Bright Bill.
I absolutely agree. No doubt. You know, I went to an alternative school where that's like their whole thing. You know, taking kids' weaknesses, you know, and taking their strengths to make them like. I will say I went to a fantastic school for high risk youth,
Okay.
and they did a lot of things of like, okay, if you're good with your hands, we're not going to waste your time doing all these weird credits. I'm going to send you to the Oak Hall building, and you're going to go get a welding. That way, when you leave high school, you can instantly get into a career. Oh, you're not good at this? Go, you can go do this trade, or we're going to go set you up with this. That way, every person that left there had a viable path to go on. Because a lot of these kids, you know, not including myself, had mental health problems, have been victimized in some way, don't have parents, don't have any. So they're setting. So they take their strengths to make them okay. This is what your career can be, and it's going to be something you like. I'm not going to make you sit here because one, you don't. What's the point? You know, I mean, you've already had this tough go of life. It's hard to argue with you why you should sit through this lesson you're never going to do when you've already been homeless. You've already been, you know, all these different things, and that's why they had such a high success rate with youth that was never supposed to graduate or had like these crazy like percentiles of like what we were expected to be, you know.
So it wasn't where the problem of kids like that are considered difficult, so they get left behind. They get looked
Yeah,
over and they don't, so they were actually giving you skills for the future that you could actually
and
use.
like you know, what we did there is they also just built off like interpersonal skills of just like having us. We did a lot of share circles, a lot of team activities. We did a lot more pace yourself learning kind of things, and where you know a lot of all of us were given up from our home school. So like we were at our district when is everyone in like the county, and I think one more surrounding county went to our school. So there's several different schools, and it definitely was like the Isle of the Lost Boys almost because this means that your school has signed off on you and basically essentially given up with you in written word that they don't want you to be that you can no longer come to the normal school and you had to be sent to the alternative.
I gotcha. So, but it sounds like the school really did care enough to give you
Oh yeah,
guys skills and resources
they
to get
it was
further.
like I know for me and a lot of other people's experience it was the first time no one's given up on us. You know, like that was,
That's great.
I think that's another reason why I connect to this movie so much because like I literally went to the like the outsider school, like not to be dramatic or whatever, but
Yeah.
like I went to the school and then a bunch of other people because most of the teachers there come from backgrounds like ours and they do that very intentionally. And it was a great program and like it's a lot of learning from each other. It was a lot of having to learn how to adapt in a world that didn't feel we were made for.
Right. So I can see where you could connect to this movie a lot because these characters are the same thing that you think Roz is programmed this way, so she can only do this. Bright
Yeah,
Bill is limited by small wings and being the runt. So, and I like Thunderbolt trains Bright Bill to fly, and he says from sundown to sun up to sundown, his wings cannot touch the ground. He needs to stay in the air.
yeah,
And then he has a shot. And I believe Thunderbolt was Bill Nye. Is that how you say his
I think
last name?
so. I think so.
From Underworld?
Yes, yes.
Victor. I always see him as Victor. But get
I also like the I forget who he is, but the same guy that voices the Arby's commercials in here,
oh, I don't know.
the guy that says we got the meats, is
Right,
the main
right.
voice actor in the movie. And
Okay, I didn't
I
know that.
instantly was able to identify his voice. I'm like, I know you.
Who was he voicing?
Let me look. Let me Google.
Because that's hilarious. It would have been funny if he randomly says, I'm craving some meat.
Guy.
They had a heck of a voice cast.
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara's in here.
And
Um,
Ving Rhames, actor known for voicing the Arby's commercial. He plays Thunderbolt. Yeah, he is Thunderbolt.
oh, okay. Never mind. I was wrong then. It wasn't who I thought it was.
But no, that's the Arby's guy. This
Okay.
is we have the meats.
Well, he does Thunderbolt. It's long. Hold on. I got my characters mixed up. It's Long Neck that's Bill Nye. That was my
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah, because Long Neck is the one that says that he is going to be Long Neck's
Oh, I
leading
didn't
the
know
flight.
Catherine O'Hara was Pinktail. I didn't know
Yeah,
she was in this movie.
but Long Neck was leading the flight, one of the leaders, and he says, ask Bright Bill to fly with him. And then Fink tells Bright Bill, don't fly like him, fly like you.
Yeah.
So the Bright Bill, when he takes off, Roz has now completed her task. So we go through this period of what does Roz do now? She's completed her task. Does she move on or does she stay? And so there's that internal battle of where do I go now that I've completed my task? And that happens in life too. You hit a point to where graduate high school, or let's say you graduate college, or you accomplish something. It's like, okay, I did this, but what's my next step? And I think that's very relatable. Is you do something and
Or
you
you live
kind of
every
figure out.
day. Like I know sometimes in people in comics, let me know if they feel similar. Sometimes college is just like the daily question of where do I go next?
Yeah, I
Where
can
do
relate
I?
to that.
Yeah, because I think there's certain periods in your life that are so transformative and transitional. You're like, okay, you wake up, you're like, shit. Now what do I got to do? What is life? What do I do? How do I do things?
Well, to me, college was like you just keep doing the next step. Get up, get ready, eat breakfast, go to class. Okay, class is done. Now I got to do some homework. Like it just there was always something going on.
Well, it's like the first time in your life you have any autonomy. So it's like it's small decisions. Like I know, I think tomorrow I register for my next semester classes or whatever. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, what do I pick? Wait, I actually get to pick. I have to choose them. It's not chosen for me anymore. And then it's like, well, I can leave the house whenever I want. Like nobody's watching me. Nobody's like, I don't have a curfew anymore. It's like, well, I also have to study. It sounds really rudimentary, but you think you can do it all. And you very quickly learn you have to start making choices.
Yeah, you do because it's like, okay, I want to do well on my papers. I want to do well on the test. So you spend more time studying. I never did the all. I never had to pull an all nighter, but I did do like the later nights where I sat there and studied to like 11 midnight, and then it's like, okay, I need to get to bed. So making those choices: do I stay up late and study, or do I try to start on assignments early so I can keep up? And that's what I tried to do most of the time.
Or you get caught up doing 100 different things, including work, and then the night before you
Yes.
go, I gotta finish this essay now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, holy shit, that took me to 3 a.m. Well, that tomorrow's gonna suck.
See, I never did that because, like, when they would assign stuff, say on a Monday, that afternoon or by that next morning, I was looking at it and I was starting on it. I would write all my first drafts by hand before I
Yeah.
ever went to the computer. I wrote everything by hand. And then as I would type, I would make corrections when I transferred it from paper to computer if the
I always
wording was weird.
gaslight myself into thinking I have more time than I do. So I'll work on it like the first day, and then I won't work on it for a few days. Like if we're doing a big essay, that's the end of the year, or we're working on like a big group project or anything at all. I'll work on it the first time I get it, and then the day before. Usually how it's happened because like with work and everything, it feels like I'm always out. I'm always like, well, I can do that tomorrow. I'll start working on that today. I'll write a few pages, whenever, and then I never do. And then I'm racing against the clock.
See,
Some of
that
my
was,
best work comes out that way, though.
and that was the same thing with Bright Bill. He had other characters, other animals pushing him like, "Hey, you need to stay on task."
Yeah.
He was given some independence, but it was also like, "Hey, you have to get to flying. Otherwise, this is not going to work. You're not going to survive the winter. This is what you need to do." And so they're pushing him to get him to fly, and I really liked that. Um, and I even put here, Fink and Possum are having a hard time admitting they care about each other and are a family. And then we get to where the animals, after Bright Bill's gone, the animals are taking shelter for winter. They're gonna hibernate, and Fink and Roz have this awkward conversation like, okay, can I stay with you? But oh no, I'm totally gonna be fine on my own, and they both
Yeah.
having this moment of not admitting that they've become a family. So they go their separate ways. Fox goes underground, Fink does. Roz goes back to the house. All the animals are getting ready for the winter. But then something happens because Roz activates the transmitter, return transmitter. And let's see here. What did I write next? Oh, the cold starts getting to the animals. So Fink gets back to Rosm, and she's like, "Are there other animals that need help?" And reluctantly, Fink agrees to go help the other animals because everyone's never really connected to Fink. Fink's always feel like the outcast, so they have to make a decision. So Roz, this robot that they called the monster, is now the best chance of survival for all the animals. How ironic.
Oh, the irony, and I think that's it's a recurring thing of life, is just the irony of living. You know, often the things that they say will save you will end you. What's the same thing? The things they all claim will save you will end you, and all the things that will save you they claim will end you.
Yeah.
There's some kind of little poem like that.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah, because it's like, yeah, they fear Roz at first, and they want to attack her, but now they're starting to realize, wait a minute, just because Roz looks different doesn't necessarily mean she can't fit in. And
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's. I think there's a thing, and obviously this is to a much bigger scale, where you learn as you grow up, and I think this is the kind of the message it's trying to give at this point in the film. Sometimes it pays to be nice to the people that were once mean to you. You know?
yeah, I do think sometimes in life, people are mean to you. You can either let that control you for the rest of your life, or you can learn to let go and say, you know what, I'm going to kill them with kindness.
Yeah, and
If that is,
there's a
if hold
great
on,
saying: "You catch more flies with honey rather than vinegar." You know?
I like the Wednesday quote: "Kill them with kindness. If that doesn't work, try lethal injection." But
Good work.
no, in all seriousness, you can't let other people's perception of you control you forever. And I had to learn that. You're not going
Because
to
if
be
she
liked by
didn't
everybody.
go back to save them, she would have become the monster they said she was.
Exactly. So she not only does she have to prove them wrong, she had to prove to herself who she really was, what her real purpose was, which is doing the right thing as she goes along. And then I wrote down here, when the winter starts and they all get into this house, the animals are fighting, and I think it's Fink. He gives the speech that sometimes in order to survive, we must become more than we are programmed to be. And then
Yeah,
they decide to call a truce for the winter. And even Bear says, "I won't eat any of you for now."
for
And
now.
I just thought that was hilarious.
I mean that I do like that they this that might seem like a really weird appraisal. I do like that they address that because I low key hate the animated movies where like all the animals are friends. I'm like, that's a fucking bear. Why is the bear not feel like address the fact that there is a food chain here and that's how things work? Because
Because
like
it
for
even
some reason it
shows,
kicks me out in other DreamWorks movies where you have like the bears and everything, they're all dancing through the forest. Like, why is the bear not eating everybody?
right, because they do have some scenes where they do the food chain. I believe early on, whenever Fink is trying to steal the egg, it shows like the circle of life, all these animals trying to attack each other. It
Yeah.
feels organic that the animals come to it. It doesn't feel forced. It's like, hey, we have to do this because of survival for winter.
Yeah. Because
We have to
like,
put aside our
why else
differences.
would a bear not eat you?
Right. So I like that they point
I
out
don't. I
that
just love that little
detail.
detail because I think it's so ridiculous when you even watch like things like the Jungle Book or whatever. I'm just like, why aren't they all eating each other? Like,
And
what?
I still love the Jungle Book. Don't get me
I don't.
wrong.
It's great, but it's. And I know it's a real weird nitpick thing, but I like that they like if you're gonna do a movie about nature and the environment, that's a really big part of it. Like the cycle of life is a pretty big part of that. You're just gonna leave out about
It adds believability. It adds layers to the film. You
yeah,
can
because like
believe
especially
that
a
these
film so
animals.
focused on nature,
Mhm.
you need to have at least some realistic ideas about how nature works if you want the whole film to be how beautiful and vast and great nature is.
Right. And I do also like, as we get into the film, Bright Bill, by the way, he is, when he returns for the spring, he's being celebrated by his fellow geese because there's a scene where they end up with the robots and they're like infestation. They start attacking them,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, what happened to Longneck?" Well, Longneck was killed to protect Bright Bill and the flock. So he's actually applauded now
Yeah.
because he helped them escape. And there's something to be said about you can, because Bright Bill has to leave for winter, but then he comes back home. You can leave and you can always come back home. So I like that message as well, that you can go do your purpose, but then come back.
Once again, maybe I'm feeling things because of the point of my life. That seems very college like. You go home for a little bit and then you come back.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
I remember only going home for the holidays because I had to work. So they would let me off work early. They would let me start early Christmas Eve. I would go home for Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, and then I would be off for winter break, but then I would be scheduled to work like maybe the day after Christmas or the day after that. So I would leave for 1 or 2 days and come back. So I didn't get the whole, oh, I don't have to work like some of the college kids where pretty much most of them are gone for the break. I was still living on campus. So it was like go home Christmas Eve for the evening only, be there Christmas Day, come back Christmas afternoon. So that way I could be ready to work the day after Christmas. And I wasn't mad about it. It was just my experience of college was different because I had to work. And
But yeah,
so,
that's the one. I'm not gonna lie. This listen. This stays between me, you, and the audience. Okay, it low key pisses me off the college kids that don't have to work. It is a whole different experience if you have a full time job on top of college. Okay,
oh yeah, I was even working
it
part
is so
time
different.
and having a tough time because the classes I was taking, adapting to going from the 2 year school, because I went to got my associate's degree first. Then when I started for my bachelor's program, they're like, hey, for your program and for this school, you have an extra year of gen ed you're going to take. So I did 5 years of college. I did 2 years of community and 3 years of
Yeah,
university. But yeah, I did. I had some people that I knew. They partied and they fell out of school because they were drinking. Parents were paying for it, so they partied and
yeah,
flunked out. With me, I was more self motivated because, like, hey, I have student loans and paying for the rest of this. I have to do this myself. So I was more self motivated. And I think I think Roz is highly motivated to make sure Bright Bill's okay. She overrides her whole programming to take care of Bright Bill and the other animals. So, I mean, Roz goes to the point of draining her battery to get these animals out of the cold. So I thought that was really cool. So there's so many different messages in here, but yeah, as you said,
they're all. It's all really well done. I would say, like, every piece of the message makes sense and how it flows together in the next. Because it's really a lesson about life and the cycle of our lives.
yeah, Roz has to learn to know when to let go and when to let Bright Bill go do his own thing. And then when he comes back, talking to him about because Roz is about to leave, but then the ship shows up and Fink shows up right before she leaves, says, hey, you got it. Bright Bill needs to talk to you. So Roz is like, I'll be right back. I forgot a part. And then Volcron, I believe her name is, she
Yeah,
starts sending the robots in and they're chasing after her. So now we have, in a lot of these films, there's some character looking that's going to go to destroy the environment. That happens in a lot
yeah,
of these environment films, but I like the way they handled it
yeah. I do
because
too.
it was like, oh, they're just going to keep coming. And then Roz is like, well, I'm going to have to leave them.
And that's so let me get to it. I think Fink, the line where he says, "What if I have something to tell you and I can't?" like broke my heart.
Yes.
Like that one was so that was the line that got me. Got a little tear in my eye.
Pretty much, I see Fink as Roz's brother,
Yeah,
right? Like they're taking like he's the uncle, whatever you want to say, but he's helping. He cares about Bright Bill just as much as Roz.
yeah, and also like then the curling up next. I just it was all so sad. It
Oh
was.
yeah,
Uh,
and they're trying to take the memories from Roz,
yeah,
but then when Bright Bill tells Roz he loves her, it activates her. It's like uh the robot has a heart after all. Remember, if the Wizard of Oz only had a heart, there was a
yeah.
heart there all along. It's just had to be that had to overrode all of the programming, which I thought was really cool.
I will say I do. They did a different ending than they did for the book.
How does the book end compared to the film?
A lot sadder, I would say, because there's a second book after
Yeah,
the
but
first one that
how does the first book end?
I don't remember exactly because I remember I had I the Let me see. Let me look this up because I remember I had two robot books.
Because the
The
first
Wild
movie
Robot.
ends, Bright Bill finds her and they reunite, and it ends right there. I thought that was great because the animals
The Wild.
rebuild.
I remember the ending of the Wild Robot escapes.
Okay, well that's a different story.
And no, it's part of the trilogy of the Wild Robot.
Well, right. What I'm saying is though, the first book, this movie
Yeah,
is
they
solely
but they took the ending. They took piece of the so 99.9% of the movie is the original Wild Robot book, but like parts of this ending was part of the Wild Robot escapes.
okay. I got you now.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
But there's also the Wild Robot protects.
gotcha. Because I like this ending. The forest is attacked. They knock over the tree. The water comes in, gets rid of the fire. They rebuild as Roz leaves because she realized they're just going to keep going. So Roz returns to protect the animals. Once again, this is bigger than her. She could be selfish and stay there, but she knows all the animals are in danger continuously until she leaves. So when Roz leaves, the animals can rebuild. They rebuild the house and everything. And then Bright Bill reunites with her. End of film. I'm looking forward. They have confirmed they're working on a second film.
Well, I almost feel like they should have just left it be, especially since they ended it so well. Sometimes a standalone film is not bad, guys.
No, sometimes you get it right the first time and a sequel's not necessary. I'm not saying they can't go good places with it, but I thought it had a great ending. And you don't want to like force a series to go on if it's not going to be as good. But I do think they could make a sequel and it'll be good. But I just think this had a good ending. Um, okay, I wrote this movie is what animation was made for because, like you said, if you're going to do animation, make it distinct, let it stand out, and that's what they
I
did
know
here. I
I
think.
would say this is one of the only times I've seen appropriate use of CG in a film.
Okay.
I low key hate the CG. Like it's funny because obviously the writer and director of this film also wrote the original Lilo and Stitch. We've all seen the CG for the new Lilo and Stitch movie. We've seen all this terrible CG out of Disney recently. To
Yes.
see CG actually used in a actual creative way of merging two different mediums and using like the textures and things to their advantage was just really nice. That not to see an easy CG movie that's 100% CG, you know, little amounts of it. Okay, too much of anything is bad.
I like that they created this. What's the style? What's the word I'm looking for here? Where they create an animation style that is lifelike. They did it in they did it in Coco. They've done it in
See, I wouldn't say this is lifelike because like you can see the hand strokes in the background and everything. I would say this is like a hyper realism
okay.
storybook because like Coco had a lot. I get what you're saying. Coco had a little bit more realistic look to it, with still the cartoony features. But this one had a very much like you're walking around in a storybook.
Yeah, okay, bringing a book to life and making it
It
feels like
reminded
a
me.
world you would
The
want to
background
live
reminded
in.
me of Brother Bear. If you've ever watched that.
I have not watched Brother Bear.
Brother, yeah, that's what the background art style reminded me of. Why the characters were more modern. It was kind of combining those two things that I found really interesting.
Yeah. Before we get into our ratings, I will say I think this is for any age. It's one of those films that you kids will love it. Parents can learn about like letting go and watching your kid more become more independent, but still being there for them, maybe just in a different way than you initially were when they were young. And I think there was a great message, a lot of life messages that were very good.
And I would say it's just a great, refreshing film. DreamWorks. I'm glad DreamWorks is sticking strong because I hate Disney nowadays. I used to love Disney films. I hate modern Disney. Pixar has been really disappointing after Inside Out 2. It's just nice to see a one studio that still seems to have a semblance of what it used to be.
Yeah, like a consistent quality. Like I think Studio Ghibli, from what I've seen of
Oh yeah.
them, and DreamWorks are the best two when it comes to animation being consistent. I think it
Well, I don't
shows.
think you would have said that about 10 years ago. I think Pixar and Disney were on a real steamroll, and then they just went. They got like this weird modernization that I don't think anybody really wants. Why DreamWorks kind of held true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Okay, for example, I think Disney is becoming like how DC was there for me. Like I will go see the individual projects that I'm actually interested in. With DreamWorks, I feel like most of the time I could say, "Oh, new DreamWorks film's coming out." I'm gonna automatically go see it to see how it is. Same thing with Leica. Leica did Coraline, Paranorman, Box
Yep.
Trolls, and I still need to see Cubo and the Two Strings. And they have one coming out called like Wildwood next year.
Yeah.
But
That'd be
they're
fun too.
they're focused on quality over quantity, and I think Disney needs to say, let's quit going for the cash grabs, let the investors have less influence and
And
push
can we
us.
stop the flow of sequels for the love of God?
Can we quit making soulless, easy money films and actually put out good films? Okay, how did you rate this? What did you look at, and what was your criteria, and what did you give it?
I would say this film was kind of hard for me, right? Because on a technical level, it is fantastic. There's very few flaws. I mean, I really don't see
Hmm.
much flaws, especially the design. The plot makes sense. This was a very well thought out movie. Um, I will say there is. I wouldn't have seen it unless it was recommended to us. I don't think. I don't think it's a movie I would seek out on my own time. But I definitely do see myself rewatching it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a copy. I own a copy personally.
especially if I had like little kids around. Once again, about to be an uncle, and I have other little kids in my life through my friends. It would be a good film to where I would be semi entertained while babysitting a child. I'm gonna give it just overall 9. I mean, the music was good. Everything. I mean, I just don't believe anything is completely perfect, and uh, I just can't give it more than a 9. I don't think because
Okay.
I wouldn't I really really enjoy this film. I just don't think I would go on my way to watch it again.
I think that's fair. For me, I'm gonna say the same thing as you because I have friends that have kids that I could put this on if they were over as like an easy keep the kids entertained while
Yeah,
they
like
all
why
saw kind of
here
thing.
Timmy watch the TV and stop tearing shit up.
Right. Um, I don't know. You and I are different. I've said that it had a great story, great animation, great characters that had a arc, and you could become more than you're programmed to be. I really like the message. This is one I could see myself watching once a year.
I would say I think if I was introduced to this movie as a younger kid, it would have become an all time favorite. I think if I were introduced at this 10, 11 years as a 10 or 11 year old, this movie would have been an obsession of a younger version of myself.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm kind of a sucker for animated films when they have good messages. Like, obviously, K-pop Demon Hunters, I gave a 10 out of 10 because to me, it's like great animation. This film, I also gave a 10 out of 10. So there
Yeah,
you go.
I mean,
And
we this was our second animated movie, but I would say since this is our second one, how do you compare this to K-pop Demon Hunters?
some similar messages of accepting yourself as you are. I think that's why I like both of them.
But I think we can both like once again not to interrupt you. I think we can both agree that this I would hold this movie. Don't kill us in the comments. I would hold this movie above K-pop Demon Hunters because I think the writing is better, just a smidge. And the plot flows a little bit easier. There's a little bit more. What I'm trying to say. Like the characters and relationships are much more fleshed out. There's not a single character where I don't feel like we don't know them as we
Okay,
do in K-pop Demon
to
Hunters.
be fair, I remember our conversation about K-pop Demon Hunters, and even though I gave it a 10 out of 10, I can still acknowledge you had characters that weren't as developed, right? The other
Yeah,
Sanjo boys. Whereas in this film, even the secondary characters, there's more there. There's more explored with them. So I
and
would
I think
say,
this movie, like if we look at this movie's runtime, proves that could have happened for K-pop Demon Hundred, and it still wouldn't have to be an extremely long movie because this isn't a very long movie, and they were able to fit all that in.
I'll say they do a better job with focusing on the side characters as opposed to K-pop Demon Hunters. I still give them both 10 out of 10, but for me personally, I would rewatch K-pop Demon Hunters more often because of that soundtrack, man.
The soundtrack, that's a,
That's I think that's where I'm at. I still will give both a 10, but I can acknowledge that K-pop Demon Hunters did have a problem with secondary characters, whereas this film did not
and I
have
just
that
think the
issue.
plot itself is more fleshed out in this movie. But this plot, the one they already took it, they had great source materials, and they had a very seasoned writer on this who's done very incredible work. Like I said, this one follows like the Chekhov gun rule probably better than most movies. Like I think every
Yeah.
movie has a part in it where they don't fire the gun, so to speak. But this one didn't feel like they missed.
And I like that we are not just focusing on one type of film. We're not doing only animated. We're not doing only action. We're not doing only horror. We're jumping around. We're doing various films. So, what I like about doing K-pop Demon Hunters and Wild Robot is it's showing me that, hey, maybe I need to give animated films and anime just a little bit more of my time and attention.
Yeah, and it's funny when you look at the lineup of movies we've done so far
The
this
Strangers,
year.
K-pop Demon Hunters, The Shining, and The Wild Robot. Just
We're just all
very,
we're bumping around.
we're jumping around, and I like it because it there are good things to learn from different genre. Like I would like for us sometime to talk about horror as a genre, what makes horror good. Like instead of doing a specific film, have a week where we do a conversation on a genre where we talk about what is
Maybe
it that
you even talk
draws
about
people
doing
to
very
that genre.
more specific things like the going over like the legends of the Scream Queens. I mean the different
But
Scream
yeah,
Queens
I
that
would
have been
also
played.
like to do horror tropes, like where we say, do we like this trope? Do we not like it, and why?
But
And be
I
able to talk
think
about different
personally we should
tropes.
challenge ourselves to do tropes that we know nothing about and go out and learn it. Like it would be really funny if
Yeah,
me and you did like a tropes of like rom coms. Like what I mean, like something like that where we
yeah,
probably
yeah,
won't go do it on our own time, but we'll do it for a video and see how we feel about it.
yeah. But I know they're through OBS Studio. There's like people have created a tier, like they'll have pictures and you create a
Yeah.
tier system basically where you look at like, oh, creepy gas station attendant in horror films, and you kind of like go in and you rank or you talk about what you like and dislike, and overall if you take it or leave it, or if it's something you want to see more of, if it's something that's not done enough, if it's something that's done too much, or if it's too big. So yeah, we can do that for rom-coms too, because there are a couple of films that were
There's
recommended
different
to me.
genres that we could tap into that we just wouldn't
Right.
that we wouldn't normally do.
I've had a
And
couple.
And I highly suggest that anyone in the comments that want to write us, something like that, we will appreciate it. Especially if it's, I think the more you can get us outside the box, the better. Almost because I would like to see us. I like to do things that we really know. I also like when we do things that me and you don't want to choose for ourselves.
Right, because I do watch some rom-coms. I actually had a Christmas movie recommended to me about a year ago, and I finally got my hands on a copy, which is Love Actually. So that's one I'm looking forward to watching this Christmas season because everyone talks about how that movie is so good. You got Alan Rickman in there, and I want to see how what he does in it. But
Yeah.
that's one that's been recommended to me. I like that we're jumping around. Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this because we want other people to see it, obviously, get more
And
eyes
we
on
have
the
more
channel.
good things coming. So,
We
you
do.
know,
When we get off the air, I'm actually going to give a movie suggestion for us to watch next, and we will kind of see what we think.
well, I think that's all for now, everybody. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.